Hello and welcome to Journalism 100. I'm Professor Tracy Savage, and this is my lecture video. In this video, I will review Chapter 6, TV and Cable. In 1948, only 1% of American households had a TV set. By 1953, 5 years later, 50% of households had televisions. And a decade later, by the 1960s, 90% of all homes had a TV. Today, American households on average have 2.3 TV sets. That's down from 2.6 televisions per household in 2009. In the 1950s, when TV was becoming a mass medium, there were major concerns that radio, books, magazines, and movies would become irrelevant and unnecessary. But those other mediums have all adapted to the changes and survived the advent of television. There were three major historical developments in television's early years that helped shape it. First, the technological innovations and patent wars. Second, there was a wrestling of the control of TV's content away from advertisers. And third, the sociocultural impact of the infamous quiz show scandals. Let's begin with the innovations of TV, how TV was developed. The question that led to the invention of TV was, if we could transmit audio signals from one place to another, why not visual images as well? Televisual images from the invention of the cathode ray tube used both camera and electricity. You'll remember the cathode ray tube from gaming. This invention put the video in video games. Because it's not possible for images to float through the air, inventors worked to encode and decode the images at a reception point. A German inventor known as Paul Nipkow developed the scanning disc, a large flat metal disc. As the disc spun, each small hole scanned one line of a scene to be televised. As that disc rotated, it separated pictures into pinpoints of light that could be transmitted as a series of electronic lines. In 1919, Vladimir Zworykin left Russia for America to work at RCA. In 1923, while working at RCA, Zworykin invented the iconoscope, which was the first TV camera tube to convert light rays into electrical signals. For this invention, he received a patent for it in 1928. Around the same time, Philo Farnsworth, while still a teenager, figured out that a mechanical scanning system was not able to directly send pictures through the air over a long distance. But Farnsworth's invention could, and in September of 1927, the first electronic TV picture was transmitted. Over at RCA, this didn't go over well, and RCA and Zworykin challenged Farnsworth in a patent war for the invention. Farnsworth relied on his original drawings he got from his high school science teacher from 1922 as a way to demonstrate that he did not copy Zworykin's invention. It worked. In 1930, Farnsworth received the patent for his invention. He later negotiated with David Sarnoff to license his idea with RCA and AT&T. He did this as a way to further the development of television. By 1948, the Federal Communications Commission, which regulates the airwaves, had granted more than 100 broadcast licenses to TV stations, with hundreds of additional pending applications. Unable to resolve several important interference, allocation, and other technical questions because of this great rush, the FCC put a freeze on the granting of new television licenses, allowing the FCC to hold hearings and study the issues, leading to something of a master blueprint for television in the United States. The freeze lasted 4 years until 1952. During the freeze, the FCC also negotiated the standard for color television. In 1952, the FCC tentatively approved an experimental CBS color system, but it did not reach older TV models. In 1954, RCA expanded their color system into new and older model TV sets, and this became the standard going forward. By the mid-1960s, the big three networks had an oligopoly in the business of TV. CBS, NBC, and ABC dominated the TV airwaves. In a period of TV's history called the network era, most historians mark the period from the late 1950s, when the networks gained control over TV's content, to the end of the 1970s. Like radio in the 1930s and 40s, early TV programs were developed, produced, and supported by a single sponsor. In 1953, David Sarnoff appointed Sylvester Pat Weaver, a former advertising executive, as the president of NBC. Weaver undermined his former profession by increasing program length from 15 minutes to 30 minutes or longer, raising the cost for advertisers, discouraging some from sponsoring entire TV programs, which had given those advertisers control of the show's content. With Weaver's changes, producers were able to regain control of their programs. In 1955, quiz shows were extremely popular, airing during prime-time hours from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. CBS aired the $64,000 question, which became the most popular TV show in America in its first year. The audiences and the networks loved these shows until it was revealed that cheating was going on in some of these quiz shows. One of the most notorious scandals involved the quiz show 21. This caused the network to pull quiz shows off the primetime schedule until 1999 with the launch of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. For TV owners who had mountains or buildings blocking TV signals that were sent through the airwaves from reaching their home's TV antennas, the solution was to send the TV signals through a cable. Around the late 1940s, small cable systems called CATV, Community Antenna Television, were launched in a few locations in the country, including Oregon, Pennsylvania, and New York. Cable started out small, in the early years serving about 10% of the country, and contained about 12 channels. But cable subscriptions grew steadily, and by 1985, 46% of U.S. homes had cable. A dozen years after that, by 1997, cable channels had larger audiences than broadcast networks. This was the time when narrowcasting was introduced, which is the providing of specialized programs for diverse and fragmented groups. Today, cable operators offer different types of cable services: basic cable, premium channels, and direct broadcast satellite, DBS, which doesn't use any wires. Basic cable consists of access channels, regional PBS stations, superstations like WGN, and a variety of cable channels downlinked from communication satellites. Superstations, by the way, are independent TV stations that are uplinked to a satellite and available nationwide. Cable operators also offer premium channels, a tier of channels that subscribers can order at an additional monthly fee. These channels offer special programming with no commercials. Premium channels also include pay-per-view, which allows customers to select a particular movie for a fee or pay $25 to $40 for a special one-time event. It also includes video on demand, which enables viewers to instantly order programming, such as movies, to be digitally delivered to their sets. The final form of cable is known as direct broadcast satellite, which transmits signals directly to small dishes in people's homes wirelessly. People began buying satellite dishes and would downlink cable channels for free. Cable companies eventually picked up on this and scrambled their signals to force people to pay for any channels that they received. By the mid-1970s, the TV industry faced a large period of convergence, similar to the one going on today with digital technology. The first development that led to convergence of the media was the development of home video, introduced in 1975. Video cassettes and video cassette recorders allowed people to record TV shows and play them later, but the VHS format has been phased out. Today, DVRs, digital video recorders, and DVDs are in over 95% of American homes today. Home video has led to time shifting, the process where TV viewers record shows and watch them when it's convenient for them. DVRs have taken the place of video rental stores. It's hard to find a Blockbuster anywhere these days. Television convergence with the internet continues today, with viewers now watching TV and movies on different screens. The third screen is the computer screen. Media consumers view, stream, or read content on their computers. YouTube is the most popular site for viewing videos. It doesn't offer, though, full-length episodes. iTunes, Amazon, Hulu, and Netflix allow viewers to watch entire seasons of shows through subscriptions. Netflix had 41.4 million subscribers by 2015. That's now larger than Comcast, the largest cable company, with only 22 million subscribers. Netflix tried reaching out to cable companies to have their service added to cable packages, but were turned down. They have now created their own video streaming services like Xfinity. Fourth screens are technologies like smartphones, iPods, iPads, and mobile TV devices that are forcing major changes in consumer viewing habits and media content creation. Cable companies like Time Warner and Dish now offer apps so customers can watch TV live on mobile devices. With third and fourth screens becoming so popular, television sets may not be needed anymore. Now let's talk about the major programming trends for television. The emergence of television programming began by borrowing genres from radio, such as variety shows, sitcoms, soap operas, and newscasts. The big three networks, ABC, CBS, and NBC, captivated by the proximity to Hollywood production studios on the West Coast, moved their entertainment divisions to Los Angeles, though the network news operations remained in New York. LA and New York came to represent the two major branches in TV programming, entertainment and information. The comedy series I Love Lucy broke a lot of ground in TV. Besides being a huge hit in the 1950s, it was the first TV program to be filmed before a live audience. It was the first TV show to have reruns. The producers of the show used a technique called a kinescope. A film camera recorded a live TV show off a studio monitor. The film could then be shown to the audience again as a rerun. However, the quality was very poor, and most shows that used this kind of process did not survive. In the early years of TV, different genres of programming began to emerge, and two different types of comedies were popular. Sketch comedies included singers and dancers, acrobats, animal acts, and ventriloquists, but they were very expensive to produce. Original skits and new sets each week caused production costs to soar, and the variety series faded. Saturday Night Live is the longest-running sketch comedy. The situation comedy, like I Love Lucy, features a reoccurring cast. Character development is downplayed in favor of zany plots. Each episode establishes a narrative situation, complicates it, develops increasing confusion among its characters, and then usually resolves the complication. In a sitcom, fans feel a little bit smarter than the characters, whose lives seem wacky and out of control. Domestic comedies deal mostly with the relationships between the main characters. Shows such as Modern Family, Parks and Rec, and Curb Your Enthusiasm are examples of different types of domestic comedies. When it came to drama in the 1950s, television served a more elite and wealthier audience. One type of drama, anthology dramas, brought live dramatic theater to that audience. From week to week, an anthology drama, like The Twilight Zone, offered new, artistically significant teleplays, scripts written for TV, casts, directors, writers, and sets. Anthologies had a brief run as a dramatic staple, going off the air for both economic and political reasons. Advertisers who sponsored entire shows at this time disliked anthologies for several reasons. There was a change in the audience, a move towards lighter fare, so anthologies didn't get high ratings. They were very expensive to produce and politically controversial, with many producers refusing to cave into advertisers who wanted to make sure the shows didn't offend anyone. Miniseries are serialized TV shows that run over a 2-week period. The miniseries has experienced a resurgence in the United States. In an episodic series, the main characters continue from week to week. Sets and locales remain the same, and the technical crew stays with the program. One type of episodic show is a chapter show, which are self-contained stories with recurring characters who confront a problem, face a series of conflicts and find a resolution. Culturally, TV dramas often function as a window into the hopes and fears of American psyche. Serial programs are open-ended episodic shows. That is, most storylines continue from episode to episode and generally are cheaper to produce. Soap operas are the longest-running serial programs, hybrids often mixed comic situations and grim plots. As mentioned earlier, there are two branches of television programming: entertainment programming and information. NBC's weekly Meet the Press debuted in 1947. It offers news as well as interviews and is the oldest show on television. News programs were developed on all three of the main networks. NBC developed NBC Nightly News. CBS produced the CBS TV News with Douglas Edwards. It became the first news show to be videotaped for rebroadcast on affiliate stations that contract with a network to carry its programs. CBS later changed the name to the CBS Evening News, and ABC premiered ABC World News Tonight. It has featured 4 anchors. Cable news got its start much later, but totally changed the game. In 1980, cable news network CNN was the first 24-hour, 7-day-a-week cable TV news channel, and the brainchild of Ted Turner. The success of CNN spawned a host of competitors in the U.S. and worldwide, of news providers as well as web and blog sites. Cable news offered viewers information and stories on a continuous loop. Other genres in TV's history include talk shows, game shows, variety programs, news magazines, and sporting events. With all of these great advances in TV and their programs, the FCC became concerned about the monopoly-like impact of the big 3 networks. The FCC passed the Primetime Access Rule that reduced the network's control of primetime programming from 4 hours to 3. What constituted the most damaged attack against the TV monopoly was the financial interest and syndication rules. These rules state that the networks were banned from reaping profits from program syndication or rerun programs. The FCC later dropped this rule. The efforts to balance cable's growth against the over-the-air broadcasters' interests led to the must-carry rules. These rules required that all cable operators assign channels to and carry all local TV broadcasts on their systems. There was also an introduction of access channels that required cable systems to provide and fund a tier of non-broadcast channels dedicated to local education, government, and the public. And finally, cable was ordered to provide leased channels, which gave citizens the opportunity to buy time on these channels and produce their own broadcast and programs. By the 1990s, the federal oversight had not caught up to the situations that were occurring in the cable industry. The Telecommunications Act of 1996 brought cable fully under federal rules that had long governed the telephone, radio, and TV industries. Congress used this to knock down regulatory barriers, allowing phone companies, long-distance carriers, and cable companies to enter one another's market. There are different types of syndication. One is off-network syndication, which was older shows being run on local stations like the show Friends that gain a new fan base and gain the network more money. Then there is first-run syndication, which is any program specifically produced to sell into syndication markets like The Ellen Show. A key factor in successful programs are the ratings, which is a statistical estimate expressed as the percentage of households that are tuned to a program in that market. Share is a statistical estimate of the percentage of homes that are tuned to a specific program compared with all of those using their sets at the time of the sample. Meantime, public television struggled to find its place. Under President Johnson, Congress passed the Public Broadcasting Act of 1967, which established the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, CPB, and later the Public Broadcasting Service, PBS. Public television targets viewers who were less attractive to commercial networks, viewers over 50 and prominently under the age of 12. These public networks have had the responsibility of producing educational series aimed at children. The Carnegie Commission recommended that Congress create a financial plan to provide long-term support for public TV, but federal funding levels have dropped, and PBS is dependent on corporate underwriting. Only about 15% of funding for public broadcasting has come from the federal government. And although they are nonprofit organizations, public broadcasting began inserting promotional messages from sponsors. But the audience for PBS has declined, including children. Parents are using on-demand services like Netflix to control what their children watch, and educational video games and tablets are commanding more attention from younger viewers. So how does television and cable relate to democracy? Well, here are some of the highlights. The 1950s. Television, its arrival, it significantly changed the media landscape. The heyday of television carried the egalitarian promise that it could bypass traditional print literacy. Basically, it was more user-friendly to everyone. Commercial television has tended to serve the interests of profit more often than those of democracy. We have streaming services like Netflix creating more and more original, high-quality programs. That's a good thing. Alternative programming and non-commercial voices are being usurped, though, by the internet. And TV-related industries continue to search for a less expensive way to produce stories. TV's future will be serving smaller rather than larger audiences. This is the end of this lecture video. Be sure to read the entire chapter and do your discussion board assignment. Then review the study guide and the key terms, and by the end of this week, you'll take the quiz for this chapter. Good luck, everyone.